Okay, so welcome back, and now we're going to do another one. So notice this is also a quadratic in form. Okay, it's a trigonometric equation. Notice that we're going from, this should be 2 pi. 2 pi. Now, the textbook has inequalities as such. They have an equals here and equals here. I think this is a mistake. This should be strictly less than, but I think that's a typo. Okay? It's not going to matter in this. It's not going to matter as far as this goes. It could matter in certain circumstances, but in this case, I don't think it's going to matter as far as our final answer. But let's see. Okay? But typically, we have 0 is less than or equal to theta, which is less than 2 pi, because again, theta, 0 and 2 pi are the same angle because they're coterminal. Okay? So that's why we usually have the equal sign here and then a strict inequality here. Okay, so now let's solve this thing. So what are we going to do? Treat it like, again, a quadratic equation. And again, you can either do a u substitution or you can visualize it. I'm going to visualize it, but again, if you want to do a u substitution and make u equal to sine theta and then solve it for u and then back substitute for sine theta and then solve, that's fine. I'm going to do it directly and show you how I would do it. And so I'm just going to do it visually, okay, mentally. So I'm going to do, since this has a leading coefficient of that's not 1, I'm going to use the AC method, or what I call method of decomposition. I'm going to decompose the middle term using the product of the leading coefficient and the constant term, okay? So if I take the product of those two, I get 6, right? So I want two factors of 6 that multiplied to 6, but then add to -5. Okay? Now, again, remember, since this is positive, both factors must be negative. Or excuse me, both factors must be the same sign. And since this is negative, that tells us that both must be negative. Okay? So now, the only one that will do that is -2 and -3. Okay? So those are going to be the factors. Now I'm going to decompose the middle term using these two factors. So what I'm going to get is this. So I get 2 sine squared theta minus 2 sine theta minus 3 sine theta plus 3. Now it doesn't matter what order I put these in, it'll work out the same way. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group. So I'm going to change this to a plus negative. And you'll see why in a moment. So I'm going to group these. I'm going to put parentheses around these two, and I'm going to put parentheses around these two terms. And that's why I changed this to a plus, because I don't want to make the mistake of grouping the negative sign and then thinking that I have to distribute the subtraction here. Because if we put the parentheses around, that's exactly what it would stand for. So I put the plus sign and make it into a plus negative, so that way I avoid making that mistake. Okay? Okay, so now I'm going to factor the greatest common factor out of both of these. So the greatest common factor for this one is going to be 2 sine theta. So I'm going to factor out 2 sine theta, and that's going to leave me what? It's going to leave me with a sine theta minus 1. Okay? Now over here, I can factor out a -3. So I'm going to factor out a -3, and that's going to leave me with sine theta minus 1. And so now you see, now we've got another common factor, and now I can factor out this thing from both of these terms. Now I've got 2 terms, right, with the plus. So now I've got a common factor in both of them that now I'm going to pull out. And so this is going to be sine theta minus 1 times 2 sine theta, because what's left over? These two, minus 3. And so now I've got my two factors. And again, don't forget, all of these are equal to 0. And now here I can use the zero product principle, and I can set this up at sine theta minus 1 is equal to 0, or 2 sine theta minus 3 is equal to 0, which gives me what? Either sine theta is equal to 1, or I get sine theta is equal to 3/2. And so now that's where I begin. Now, here's the thing. This one is equal to 1.5. Now, will sine theta ever equal 1.5? No. No, it won't. And the reason why is because the range of sine is from -1 to 1. Okay? So the sine of theta cannot equal 3/2. Okay? But, so this one is out. But this can be. So sine theta, and now I know why. Well, actually, yeah, so actually it doesn't matter in this case whether you have an equal sign. It's not going to matter because the sine of 0 and 2 pi are both 0. So the sine of theta is 1. Well, it's only going to be 1 on this interval. It's only going to be equal to 1 at theta equal to pi over 2. Or 90 degrees. And again, you can see that from the right triangle, right? So as the right triangle gets closer, as the angle gets closer and closer to 90 degrees, the opposite leg is getting closer and closer to equaling the hypotenuse. And so the ratio becomes basically the same thing on the top and the bottom, which gives you 1. So it's approaching 1. As theta approaches pi over 2, the sine of theta approaches 1. And so that's the answer, pi over 2. And again, make sure you check all solutions on the given domain, as some factors have no solution. Okay? Have a great day.